Hi. Have you ever heard, today's post is entitled Fairytale Life. And in the fairy tales that I grew up with, often after at the end they said, and they lived happily ever after. Well, I learned that after being married for quite a while and having a few children, that happily ever after it didn't look like I recalled the stories showing it looked like. And then as my children were watching Disney's Cinderella, I realized at one point, wait a minute, Cinderella knew how to live happily ever after not because she married Prince Charming. No. But she had learned how to live happily before. Because let's face it, okay, there's a scene in there where she's scrubbing the floor and there's all these soap bubbles all rising up above her head, and in those soap bubbles are like silhouettes of her singing sweet nightingale harmony, like just multiple parts harmony. And it's really it's a beautiful scene, and she sings beautiful harmony with herself. And well, she's scrubbing the floor on her hands and knees. And you know, whenever I do that, I do the same thing, don't you? I venture to say very few of us even scrub on our hands and knees anymore. And if we did, we might think, oh, poor me, poor me. And Cinderella could very easily have thought that, couldn't she? Because her ugly stepsisters were just cruel to her, and so was her stepmother. And Cinderella, what did she do? She was as sweet to them as she could be. And she would sing songs about I don't know if she sang the One Day One Prince Will Come. I think that might have been Snow White. Nevertheless, she would sing songs, and the birds and all the animals would be with her, and she found the joy in every moment. She found the story about what was going on in her life, so that it would help her to feel encouraged as she went through her actually grueling life, and laid foundation for her happily ever after when she did meet Prince Charming. And they did get married. And Prince Charming, just like whoever you might be married to, or whoever you might be in partnership with in any realm, in any arena, even if it's somebody at work you want to, have a happily ever work life, you are not going to have that happily ever work life until you figure out how to live happily on your own, happily before, because it's the story you write on the mind. Anyway, the story you write in your mind, like as if this chalkboard were your mind, that's the one that allows you to live happily ever after, and to live that fairy tale life. And it may sound, well, it is. It's simple to understand that we can rewrite our story. I mean, most of us know that neuroscience has let us know that we have neuroplasticity in our brain, and that we can rewire our brain, and we can tell a new story. And it's simple to understand. Okay, well, I'm believing this. I'm going to pull that out, say it's a weed or whatever, and I'm going to put this flower in. But it's not necessarily easy, or it's simple to understand, but not necessarily easy to do. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit. First, I'm going to sing this song entitled Happily Ever After, which is the song I wrote when I learned, oh, wait a minute. I mean, my husband's really cool, and I do really love him, and I love my children, but this is, I'm not even going to say what I thought. How's that? It was pretty dark. But I did learn, watching that Cinderella Disney version, that, wait a minute, I can do something about it. And I've been working ever since then to do just that. Living happily ever after is a dream I had when I was young, believing what I saw in the Hollywood scene, glamorizing lies which fed into my dream. My foolish queen, happily ever after doesn't come. If you're not living happily If you're not living happily, you're not living happily before. So am I saying that if you didn't have your happily ever after before you got into this job or into this relationship, that there's no, that relationship or that job is doomed to always be just difficult and that's the only way you'll see it? No. What I'm saying is that you're not going to be able to see the job or the relationship as happily ever after or as a fairy tale life until, if and when you choose in your mind to rewrite the story that's made it so it wasn't happily ever after for you. Whatever it is that you are believing that is causing it not to be happy. Because quite a few posts ago, last year, I shared with you my, things I wrote up because I've learned these things because I've been working on the happily ever after ever since I wrote that song. And sometimes I do live there. Not always, not yet. Oh my goodness, I should quit right now, just kidding. Possibility, your happily ever after, begins and ends in your mind, in your consistent beliefs, thoughts, words, feelings, and actions. You know, your stories, the stories you repeat in your mind that are running around in there and are running your life are the things you believe. And not all of them are true. Maybe none of them are. Maybe they're only partially true. The next song I'm going to sing for you, I'm going to sing one more song, and it's called What Story? And it's, again, in my quest to live happily ever after. And I don't know, I just keep getting songs. And that's, I call that grace. I call that grace. And I'm grateful for it because it helps me through the dark times. So this song is called What Story? What story do you tell yourself when you wake up each day? Does it inspire you to make the world a better place? Your story fuels your feelings. Your story sets the stage. What story will you live and tell today? What story do you tell yourself when morning lights the sky? Is it a tale of truth or a web of lies? Like a kaleidoscope, it will color what you see, shape what you do, what you believe. La 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 di da di 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 di. La 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 di da di. Your story fuels your feelings. Your story sets the stage. What story will you live and tell today? Detours and distractions, challenge every day. It's been the pattern since God cursed the ground for Adam's sake. Overcoming challenge, obstacles and pain imparts experience, instructs in wisdom and grace. La 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 di da di 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 di. La 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 di da di. Your story fuels your feelings. What story do you tell yourself when the sun has set? Does it help you go to sleep with no regret? What you harbor in your heart before you go to sleep will either fuel your fears or your hopes and dreams. La-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. What story do you tell yourself when you wake up each day? What story do you tell yourself when morning lights the sky? What story do you tell yourself when the sun has set? The story you tell, the story you believe, determines what you get. La-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, yeah. You know, the thing is about the stories that we tell, we don't always know what stories we're telling. We don't even know always what we believe. I was reading an interview by a young lady, I can't remember who did the interview, but the name of the lady who wrote the book is Kendra Hall. And she said that what I knew, but I like to, I like to read things about things I already believe because it supports this story I'm holding on to. I bet you can relate, can't you? Do you like to listen to stories and listen to things that aren't in alignment with what you already have been able to perceive and understand? Because that sets up that cognitive dissonance where you're going, oh my goodness, they're not singing on key. It doesn't sound right. They're off rhythm. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I can't handle this. It's tough. But that's actually where the learning happens. Anyway, she says that the story you believe is determined by the story you write. And in order to write a good story, there has to be an identifiable character, an authentic emotion, some kind of a moment that's meaningful, emotional, empowering, or hopefully, if it's a good story, it would be empowering, and specific details, something that you can get inside of and just become, just like you do in a really good movie. So I wrote down some steps to kind of manage that. Number one, give yourself instructions. Notice the stories you're telling that discourage you, about others, and about life. Because that's all there is. There's you, there's others, and then there's life. So if something happens and you feel discouraged about it, or upset, or irate, or whatever, you're triggered in some negative form, what are you thinking? What story are you telling? Try to identify it. And eventually you will. And probably not at first. Then remind yourself, number two, when you start to feel discouraged, to identify this story supporting your discouragement. Like I said, a belief is the result of stories you believe. Your belief begins with your story. It's a story that you've been told over and over again, just like that happily ever after one that many of us believed. But now we know it's not true. That's our job. It's always our job. I guess it's our life. That makes sense, doesn't it? Number three, challenge the story. Is it true? Ask, how can I change the way I tell it so I feel encouraged about me, about others, and about life? And then you write your new story, and you include the things that Kendra Hall suggests. Number five, you will not believe your new story. Spoiler alert, you're not going to believe it, because it goes against, it's going to cause that cognitive dissonance where you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's just, no, I can't believe this. I'm not doing this. This is stupid. This won't work. But if you'll persist for 66 days, yes, I said 66 days, not 21. Evidence suggests now that 21 days kind of starts to loosen the neural network connection. The other one is kind of coming in, but this other one is still, they're about the same thickness. Say if these are wires in your brain, okay? So let's say this is the one that's the story you don't like and you want to change it, and you want to change it. So then you start, this is how big the stories is coming in, you don't believe it. But then this story starts to diminish a bit, and this one gets bigger, and so pretty soon they're like nip and tuck. They're kind of the same, but maybe that's what happens at 21 days. I don't know. Anyway, then so we're going to say this is the new story because I don't want to flip you off. And so then this is eventually, if you keep with it, this other story gets so little, so that belief gets so it's just not used. Oh, we don't need this. Just like muscles atrophy, the neural network will atrophy, and the one that you persist in will become your new story. Isn't that just fabulous? So you won't believe it to begin with until you've inserted it into the discouraging story for probably 66 days, according to recent studies. That's what I just said. And then, number 6, when you notice stories that discourage you, one other thing, I learned this from Laurel Mellon. Assume position at 1, which is shoulders up, down, and back. And take a cleansing breath. And a little smile on your face. So this is after you notice the story, and you're probably upset because the story is upsetting you, because it's one you don't want. You want to disengage that one. Okay, say, I'm willing to believe my new story. Then replace your old story with your new story. Repeat it. And that's what I'm going to work on in that way. I've been working on it forever in all kinds of ways. And there are other ways to do it. But you know what? I figure if I just throw everything at it, eventually something's going to stick. I hope you had some fun with me today. I had some fun. And I hope that the story that you write about you encourages you, about others, and about life. Please join me in my subscribership and community I'm trying to build. How's that? I'm building. In fact, last time I said thank you for 111 subscribers, and I thought it was really good, and I said it was really good, and guess what? 3 of you joined me to make it 114. It's kind of like the story is being changed with your help. I'm Sarah D. Make it a great day.